What's going on, everybody? How we doing this evening? Welcome in. Hope you guys are doing great tonight. Hey, Allison, welcome in. Trying to find the man of the hour on here to send him a invite here. Hey, how did you do in the tournament? Oh, I didn't. I haven't bowled a tournament in a while. JMD. Good to see y'all, though. Give everybody a chance. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday evening. Appreciate you guys coming in. There we go. There's our guest. Let me get him invited in and get this video turned on. And we'll get this shindig started. Victor. What's going on, buddy?
I had already forgotten to grab my earbud.
Hey, there you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, now we're good to go. I luck out because I forgot my actual my newest set of mics, but I have my old ones that are here, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
Oh yeah, no, we can hear you just fine, brother. Everybody out there, give us a little sound check here. Let us know you can hear Victor and I talking.
Yeah, from the road.
From the road, where are you at, man?
I made a pit stop to Des Moines. I was debating whether or not I wanted to go ahead and drive all the way to Muscatine. We have a tournament tomorrow with Jasmine's going to be on the stream, and I'm just like, man, if I get there, like I'm just gonna like sleep in as much as I can and be groggy in the morning. And last week I decided to make the like 2.5 hour drive to Boulder Trios, and I'm just like I felt pretty good when I got there. So we're gonna try that again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure you're going to have success because I've been in those lives and everything, and you've been throwing the ball pretty sweet here.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
that's just what I was in the video, and I kind of missed out on the other action. But I mean, from what I saw, you were rolling it pretty smooth, bro.
Yeah. Lately, it's been a little bit different. I think I got a new perspective on a lot of different things. So yeah, we're just hoping for more of the same. It's not going to be perfect all the time. That's how bowling is. That's how life is. Everything has its ups and downs. And I've been open about going to therapy. And I think the mindset now is instead of going for that number one spot and then diving when you don't get there, we're just gonna like strive for average and get those like little increases here and there. So that's the goal. We're gonna have a change in the mindset and see how that pans out.
Okay. I do want to say I'm glad you brought up the whole therapy thing. I know that I would really like to kind of get your perspective on that because it's kind of since we had that last conversation when you was in on the live before we did our DGAB anniversary show, it's something that's really, really taken a hold of me and kind of given us some thought to. So I'd like to maybe pick your brain about that. And I think there are a lot of people out here watching wouldn't mind hearing that journey as well if you're cool with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm an open book. Like, and that stuff. I know, like a lot of people don't really talk about it. I'm open about it because we're not perfect. Uh, we are human beings, right? We have our ups and downs, and sometimes you need help getting that under control and kind of like getting it organized is what it is. And like even last, like I had a session Friday. It wasn't as like enlightening as the first one, but it still put me on track to figure out where my mindset needs to be, where my priorities are. Like I've committed to a lot of stuff this time around in February. Stuff like I said, I agreed to the show, and then Jasmine goes, "Hey, we're bowling in Muscatine next weekend, right?" I'm like, "Oh, we are." Like, oh crap! So this was gonna have to happen from October anyway. But it's you just roll with the punches, right? So that's what the therapy's for. Just kind of keep your head on straight. And she's like, you can come in whenever you feel the need. No pressure to just make a buck off me. She's like, whenever you feel like you need it, you book it.
Okay, dude, that's great. It's funny you say that because I've been really putting a lot of pressure on myself personally here because of that Derek Tate Memorial Tournament I told you of really for my late friend, and it's kind of one of those things. So it's kind of like timing is everything. So I really feel like I was feeling overwhelmed, and I felt like that conversation we had that day, I've been a lot more at ease. So basically, just appreciate it, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. I was trying to get the camera to mirror itself around because you see Storm here. I am on staff now, and it's
Yeah,
probably mirrored the other way. It's but yeah, it's stuff like I said. And I know you've gone through a time, and we're trying to get that tournament to be as big as can be, right? We'd love to have an honor to people that are near and dear to us, right? So, like I said, we're all here in the community together. We're all human
yeah,
beings. No one's above each other. So, like I said, it's just
yeah.
good to be transparent sometimes.
So here's how we're going to do this. Brian is in here right now, Brian Doman. So everybody that's out here listening to us, we're going to have a spot on the show where we're going to do the Q&A. So if anybody wants to ask Victor a question, go ahead and ask, but try to tag Brian. And Brian's moderating this too, so he'll kind of pin him. Brian, if you want to pin yourself up at the top, you'll see his username. Just make
Hmm.
sure you at him with your question. Brian's going to keep up with all the questions, Victor, and we're going to get those towards the end. Like just do like a whole Q&A segment if you're cool with that, buddy.
Absolutely, I'm all for it.
Okay. So again, I'm looking at my little guideline here. I don't know if you got the email about that. I really have. I definitely got to give props to Dustin. He's definitely helped me become a better podcast host, if you will. And getting this outline, I knew like when you and I agreed that we were going to do this show. I'm like, look, man, like I hit grand slams. Or let me rephrase that. I try to hit grand slams the best I can with these shows. And I was like, look, we're really going to make this huge because, like I said, you've got a lot of knowledge. And, it's funny because it's like you told me, I remember one of the things I read in your little questionnaire I sent you. You said when your competitive days are done, you want to be able to work in your own pro shop. I'm here to tell you, buddy, almost 20 years in, yeah, because you're not going to have a lot of weekends free.
No, absolutely. And I know that, and you know what? It's funny that I've cut back on a lot of, like this year, I'm trying to cut back a little bit, right? Like I was, all the time on the road, especially with Ryan, we would travel together. And this time around, I just feel like, I just need that space. And I know working in a pro shop would be just keeping me at home. So I'm at a point where I don't feel like the rev rate's dropping at all. I feel like I'm learning at a good pace and I got my peaks and valleys right, and there's been more ups than there have been downs. So as long as I'm projecting that way, I'm going to keep bowling. And when Father Time catches up and says, "Hey, you got to stick your butt," you're getting your butt kicked in by a bunch of 20-year-olds. Then we'll turn to that, and I'll be helpful for the community there.
Let me tell you, Victor. It took me a solid 20 years to catch up and out average my mentor in one season. So I think you got plenty of time, my friend.
I'll
So
see what
so
happens. You know
moving
how life.
forward. Oh no, I completely agree, man. So I was going to do this. It was like introduce guest. I don't feel like this guy needs any introduction. He is by far one of the most descriptive TikTokers, bowlers that I've ever come across on here. And I don't know if you remember because I'm vaguely remembering how we got started, like how we collided in a live or something. I don't know how it happened. It might have been Britt. It might have been Michelle. It might have been somebody.
I want to give
It might have
both
been,
of them, both of
yeah,
them
it might
credit
have been a
probably,
little bit of both of them. Yeah.
because I know
So,
I know Britt mentioned it to me for sure.
uh, hmm yeah, and she always holds the claim. She's in the chat here right now. She's always going to be able to hold the claim that I was his first guest on Calling All Bowlers. You guys know that, right?
That's what she told me when I told her I was jumping on. She's like, just remember who was the first.
Yeah, right. No, but again, like, dude, you don't need an introduction. But for everybody out there that's been living under a rock for the last year and a half, I got Mr. Victor Cortez on here, and I am extremely, like I said, I kind of feel like I'm covering two states in one because you are living in Nebraska, but you're from Chicago. Is that right?
Yeah, from the Chicago, I'll call it the Chicago burbs because for most people, like 30 miles isn't a suburb. But when you talk about Chicago and the Chicago metro, it is huge.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of tournaments in Chicago. I did a lot of work in every day in Chicago. I might as well just call myself a Chicagoan, and the actual Chicago people will fight me on it because they're prideful. But you know what? I wear Cubs hats in St. Louis, and I'm not ashamed to do that kind of thing. So yeah, I represent.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question about that later on, but I can tell you down here in Bama, it's Alabama and Auburn, dude. So I totally get the whole Chicago St. Louis rivalry. And the rivalry is so big down here because we don't have a major sports team in Alabama. It's Alabama or Auburn, man. So I
Yeah,
totally get
and
the rivalry.
big time pride because now living in Omaha, it's not you don't have we don't have a major sports team either. We have a AAA baseball team, but I mean everybody's a Husker, Nebraska Huskers, and everybody's wearing red. It's crazy.
Well, I tell you this. So tell us just a little bit more about yourself. Maybe a couple things, and then when you're done with that, I have a question regarding Chicago.
Yeah, no, I mean it's all this happened by accident really, and I'm just kind of like I was your everyday like just show up to the bowl, do tournaments on the weekends. Um, I I can't necessarily say that I bowl a lot of league these days. I used to just sub in every now and then, and I noticed that when I would sub, people would ask me to keep coming back every week, and I'm like, that's not how you define what a sub is. So yeah, I bowl tournaments on the weekends. You'll see me live stream on my personal TikTok page, and you'll hear me mic'd up, so you hear all the good, all the bad, and then I'll recap from those live streams, and I'll clip videos, and then I'll recap from those live streams what happened, what was going on in my mind when I was bowling, how sometimes I'll talk about how I look to bounce back from the bad sets, that kind of thing.
I think you would highly agree with me on this. Making content is a lot more difficult than people might give it credit for.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I've talked about it with you before. Doing a 3 minute video is like 3 hours worth of work, and
Mhm.
I do it because I love it. I do it because there's a lot of people that tell me that they get a lot out of the recaps and a lot of information out there. And like if I just did lessons, it probably wouldn't take up as much time. But um, I love doing it, and I love hearing people tell me, "Hey, that tip that you gave me last week, I ended up shooting my personal best score because of it. I appreciate you." Like that helps, and this can only help grow, my journey, my bowling career for down the road. Operating out of a pro shop, I see nothing but good things from having a channel like this on TikTok.
I completely agree. It's almost kind of happenstance for me because like some people come into the shop and I've had like four or five people go, "Hey, you're the beaver logo I saw on TikTok," and I was like, "That's like it's just like it's just it all coming together." So yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming from right there. So pertaining to Chicago, for us that have never visited Chicago, because I personally have not, what's the best pizza place in Chicago for
Oof.
all us pizza
See,
lovers?
it's crazy because like so everyone knows outside of Chicago, everybody knows deep dish. But that's not typically like what we go for on a Wednesday night when you're gonna grab a pizza to take home or whatever. So if we're gonna cover the deep dish, my personal favorite, and there it is in the chat, Lou Malnati's. Lou Malnati's is my absolute favorite. It's a good balance between crust and sauce and everything else. You can like Giordano's, you can like Geno's. Those are typically cheesier, but if you want an all-around good pizza, Lou Malnati's is it.
All right. Well, that seems like the undisputed. So I'm writing that down because if I ever get that far north, and as long as it's not cold weather, then I will make sure to look up Lou right there for you. I can't say the last name. I'm not even going to try to butcher it because I'm not.
If you type Lou,
I,
you'll get
I know
enough of
my.
them in your
I
Google
know my
search.
limit.
Yeah, and then like
Okay.
any
Okay.
pub will have good pizza, but I like Bill's Pub in Mundelein.
Um, how long ago did you move to Nebraska? I know you told me this, but
Mhm. So I
I
moved in 2020.
forget.
Yeah, I moved in 2020. It was like, after as the pandemic was starting, like Chicago was still very strict on their guidelines. Nebraska was kind of opening up and it came over here. Like cost of living was cheaper. It had a lot of good things. And I had been in Omaha before for a tournament and I looked at it and I'm just like, wow, I really like the area. I knew the College World Series was here. I came here for a baseball tournament when I was in high school And yeah, I just thought it was no big deal. I was bouncing back and forth for a while, and then I said, you know what? Why don't I just stick around Omaha and see what it's like? And I've loved it ever since.
They just stuck after that, huh?
Yeah, no, I love that. Nebraska is, and it's a great bowling community here. People are prideful in their Nebraska Huskers, and that's what they told me when I came over here for a regional. They're like, "I bet you the regional's on a Sunday," and I said, "Why do you say that?" Like, oh, because they don't put anything on a Saturday over there. That's when the Huskers play. You're bowling on Sunday, and it was a
That,
1 day
that
tournament.
sounds that sounds about like here in Bama. If Bama's playing, we don't schedule a demo or a tournament or anything. So yeah, most definitely, I concur with that mindset. Um, so you talk baseball, so I know that's a hobby and an interest. But what are some of your other interests outside of bowling?
Um, so I don't know if a lot of people know, but I'm actually pretty big gamer. Like gaming kind of helps me unwind. Um, I do play a little bit of music and guitar, even though I haven't put any new strings on my acoustic in a long time. I mean, I'm a nerd in general, so when I have some like really free time, I might check out a museum every now and then and just kind of nerd out because I love learning.
Read any books here lately?
I don't know what
Any
a
good
book is.
books?
I
You
have
don't know
no
what a
idea
book
what it
is?
is.
Okay. Okay. I got really into books about 2021, and I had just filed Chapter 7 because I got myself into some stupid trouble financially because and then like you said, the pandemic and everything doing what they're it caused a lot of financial heartbreak for a lot of people, myself included, and I really started getting into reading books,
Mhm.
and I got into really like business books too. So I haven't read one in probably like about a couple of years, but I didn't know if you had any favorite books, but okay, maybe a magazine. You have a magazine, or you just don't read at all.
I just don't know what a magazine is. I don't know what letters on a screen do. I like letters on the screen are different. Like I'll do that, but like paper,
Yeah.
like I don't know what that is. I was just like, and even Britt's like, yeah, maybe he doesn't even know how to read. Fair point. I have never really opened up a book before. There's some good like self help stuff that I've done in the past, but I don't recall them, nor do I like actively seek out a book to read. All the stuff that I get is through video or audio.
Well, listen, some of us are auditory, some of us are visual. It is what it is, man. That's nothing wrong with that. You said you game a lot. You got a favorite video game series,
The video
or
game
you
series,
can
I
even name off a
probably
favorite system.
yeah, no, the favorite, geez, favorite system is nuts because I think I played a lot of PS2 back in the day. I think there were a lot of category of games there. Favorite series, the thing is, my name is called Iceman X for a reason. It's because one of my favorite series, and actually probably my favorite series, is Mega Man X. Not the Mega Man that used to be on the NES. It was the Super Nintendo version. And yeah, that was I could play that, and I still rerun it back all the time. Between that and Street Fighter, like any of the Street Fighters, like I'll go nuts.
Okay. Street Fighter. Yeah, I remember when they first came out in the arcade. That. This is right before like they were okay. It's 25 cents, and then they upped it to 50 cents, and it's like, well, dadgummit, man.
Yeah,
So prices were going up back then when we were kids.
absolutely. I remember
uh,
that. Like,
Let me pick your baseball brain here, okay?
okay.
So I know there's a Cardinals Cubs rivalry. Would you say, for those of us that don't know, would you say there's a rivalry between the White Sox and the Cubs?
You know what, there is because there's a lot of hometown pride. There's a lot of, I rep the Cubs, I rep the Sox. From a Northsiders perspective, I don't think there is one. From a Southsiders perspective, there probably is. And I'm going to tease my Sox fans a little bit. Wrigley's full all the time. I'm just saying. There's a lot more Cubs fans than
It's
there are Sox fans, but I've learned that the Sox fans are absolutely behind their team 100%.
I don't know if they were behind their team that much this past season because that was a pretty tough one to digest.
That was rough. I know I don't know anybody like I knew one of my friends, one of my great friends back home, Alan. He would go to a couple games this season and he sent me a couple pictures. I'm like, you actually went? But company paid for the tickets, so that's the only way he's probably going in the season like that.
because they were like value economy.
Absolutely, they're just giving them away at that point. Ah, gosh, it's brutal, but you know what? Yeah, there's no franchise is excluded from having that kind of a season, but they're still gonna rep their team. And that's what I love about the Sox fan is that they're prideful about their White Sox.
See, I'm the same way. Like I told people all the time that you know Saban retired from Bama, and everybody was giving me grief about it. And I was like, no, you guys don't understand. I remember the Mike Dubose, I remember the Francione, I remember the Shula years. Like I endured that whole like 6 year trek and before. And it's just like loyalty is a big thing with me. So it's like I'm not gonna bail. And I even give props if I have to pick out an NFL team. I mean, I think you got to have a lot of loyalty to be a New York Jets fan right now too.
Absolutely. I mean that, and right now going through the Bears, just they don't know how to run a team, and
I,
I'm still gonna wear my Bears shirt, and people are gonna be like, "Why?" Like, look, I'm a Chicago guy. Like, I'm not gonna bounce on another team. I'm good. Like, they just suck.
Maybe this coach coming in, the offensive coordinator from the Lions coming in, might give it some offensive power.
It's good pickup, but I think there's a lot of issues still, top to bottom. I don't know that necessarily. We've done what we could to build a team, but I think there's higher ups that just really didn't know what was going on.
you, it's funny you say that because the maybe being a Giants fan is worse. I don't know because you let Saquon go and now he's getting ready to play in a Super Bowl with your divisional rival. I mean, maybe that's even worse. I don't know.
Could be.
So we were talking about video games. You said Mega Man X. Would you consider that the best video game series of all time?
Not of all time because they had some stinkers after four. Mega Man X4 was probably where it absolutely peaked, and then after that, they just wanted to sell copies, and the games weren't good. And there's a whole story with Capcom and Keiji Inafune. I could bore you guys to death with that kind of stuff. For me, I think Street Fighter is probably the one because even though the first one was a trendsetter, and then two was all time like one of the best sellers out there. Period. Um, and then you go into the alphas, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4 brought fighting games back. Street Fighter 5 probably like it had a rough patch, but then it eventually got good. And now Street Fighter 6 is. I love playing Street Fighter 6. I went back home for the holidays, and my brother's got this decked out game room, and we were playing games online, and it was just fun. And so I would say like I could play any of the Street Fighters. I'd say probably Street Fighter is probably the franchise I would deem that.
Uh, you know what? I'll give you a fist bump on that because I remember there were so many people that's like, oh yeah, like the Champions Edition when you have to play it. No, we're talking like Street Fighter Two, the original eight.
Yeah, World
We're
Warrior.
talking
Yeah,
Ryu, Ken, E Honda, Chung Li, Zonkiev, Blanca, Guile, and Dhalsim. Like we're talking like the original eight.
yeah.
And no, I can't debate that, Victor. I'll give you that, man. That's yeah.
It is a niche
Well, I
one,
tell
but
you what. Yeah. All right. Well, I tell you what, we're gonna. That's pretty good. Like I said, good beginning, Victor. Again, thank you so much for joining me, y'all. This is episode 18, and I have covered 15 or 16 states. I've got to go back and look everything, but I've covered a lot of states. And my main goal when I came on with this, and I know I told you, I said I'm trying to do all 50 states. And it's funny, like one of the guys in New Jersey, Black Sheep Bowling, he messaged me after you did your promo when you tagged me in it. And he was
yeah,
like, hey, man, do you got Jersey covered? He was like, you
there
got
you go.
Jersey covered? And I was like, not yet. And he goes, if you're interested, he goes, I'd love to get on there and talk. And I was like, you know what? So here we go. So it's amazing what networking does, and it's one of the best things I've learned about being on TikTok. And inevitably they took it away for 10 and a half hours, and I don't know what you did, but I went out of my mind because and then I saw you on a live on Instagram, and I got a lot of feedback going. Instagram is pretty ghetto.
That's weird. It was really weird when I tried it, and all I was doing was gaming. But I'm just like I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I don't know if I like this.
Oh yeah, Dustin's in the chat here. Yeah, he knew I was like I was really I I was really upset. Like again, I've told people like I don't bring politics into my whole repertoire here because again, we're all human. We believe what we believe in, but that right there, I really think a lot of us collectively came together and was like, we know this is BS. So
Right. Yeah. We don't want this. We don't want none of this. So yeah, I'm happy
yeah,
that we have a platform for now.
but I'm glad we're back here and now, and we got you in here. So, with that being said, Victor, let's go. Let's dive into some of the non-bowling related stuff regarding you, my friend. Tell us some of your life goals. I really liked your answer in the questionnaire, and I figured you're going to tell us here. So
Yeah.
let's rock and roll with that. Tell us some of your
I think
life
the biggest
goals.
life goal for me is to like it kind of leads into like what I do with TikTok and mentoring and stuff like that. Like I grew up and my dad was everything that I could have ever asked for, and he sacrificed a lot of time to provide food on the table and to keep me bowling and to keep me playing baseball. So like the ultimate life goal for me is to be a dad. I'd love to have a family down the road sometime. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, I want to be a superstar and all this other stuff. I just want to have I want to have a kid that looks up to me like I'm a Superman, and I want to treat him the best that I could ever possibly treat a kid. That's because what my dad provided for me. And so my dad is my hero in a sense. Both of my parents are my heroes, but that's the ultimate goal is to just have a family of my own and be super dad at home.
Bye. And that's a very noble goal indeed. And I know there's a lot of us on here that are dads. I'm not. You'll probably never see DGAP ever being a father, and I'm okay with that because I know it's not for everybody.
You're
But
right.
dude, I love hearing other people look at me and they tell me, like you just said, you want to be a dad, and it's a very noble thing. And I have always been one of the things I have been a big advocate of is men's mental health and fatherhood and stuff like that. And again, dude, I concur like Brett and everybody else. You're gonna be great for. It's kind of like whatever you're planning and whatever you're watering, you're gonna be great at. So
And I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. Like I said,
so yeah,
it'll be a tiring task, but when that time comes, I'll be ready for it.
I'm a okay with being the fun uncle because my buddy Kyle, his daughter Elle, she calls me Uncle Mike, and I'm like, okay, you know what? That's my peak right there. I'm good with that. So
Yeah.
because at least then I can say, all right, you need to go back to mom and dad.
Absolutely. You could just,
No.
hey, all right, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. This is what it is. Fantastic. Okay, mom and dad are calling you back now. Okay, so you talked about your dad really providing the perspective to set you up for one of your life goals. Do you have any vivid memories as a child?
Besides being goofy and trying to be a ninja, no, I really don't. I think I was just being a kid at the time. I think, and I appreciate that for my parents. My parents just let me be a kid and didn't put any pressure on me to do anything. But when it came to baseball and bowling, they're like, hey, while you're here, try to, because they must have seen something. They try to plug away at it and try to get good at it. And so I did. Like baseball was my first love, and I really put into work to kind of get myself in a position to maybe have something down the road. But I can't tell you any actual memories that I
Well, I mean, you pretty much did when you talked about wanting to be a ninja, but it's refreshing to hear that you said it best, being a kid,
had.
because I personally had to grow up at 12. Again, about I've told you about my relationship with my dad, and obviously he's been gone now for almost 6.5 years, and we rekindled it, which is one of the best things in the world. And it's like we all go a different path, but I feel like we all full circle it at some point where we can line up and where we can relate to. So, um, when my dad wasn't around much when I was a kid, I had my grandfather and my mom's dad, and that was the fill in. And it's funny because my ball actually was the one that convinced me when I stopped talking to my dad for a year. It was my ball that was like, "Hey, you really need to fix this with him," and I was like, "Okay, yes, sir."
Yeah,
So, you know, go ball.
and we go through
um,
that. I had my teenage years too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Uh, so you said ninja being a kid, is that kind of what you wanted to be growing up then?
And it might have been. I mean, I kept playing the other game I kept playing was Ninja Gaiden. Ryu Hayabusa looked cool as hell. I absolutely
Did
wanted
you
to be
play
one.
you play all
Power
three of
Rangers,
them on NES?
I did, yeah. And I only beat two when I was a kid. And then I went back to one and realized as an adult how hard they are. Like it's insane.
You're not kidding. I couldn't even play the first one because it's like the window and everything for error. It's like you're jumping and it won't let you
Yeah,
jump and you have to time it just right.
absolutely
You ever
perfect.
thought
And there's
about being a
enemies.
speedrunner? Yeah.
Uh, I'd, I'd
You ever thought
I'd
about being a
love to.
speedrunner?
I'd love to,
Yeah.
but I know it takes up a lot of time and remembering stuff, and I've got ADHD. Like unless I hyper focus and remember, like if I hyper focus, probably. But yeah, I don't know that I'd be willing to grind like that. Those speedrunners are cool to watch, though. I'll watch them all the time.
One of my favorite is Darbian. I don't know if you've heard of him on YouTube, but he set the Mario one record, and then he set the 5 game record where he played Super Mario All Stars. There was
Yeah,
one guy that did the original Turtles game on the NES. He did it in like 16 minutes, and I'm like, I
that
never beat this as a kid. Like, how did you pull this
no,
off?
right. We all remember the water level. I don't know that I remember anything besides that. It's traumatizing.
It's like those little things of videos. It's like, so where did your trauma start? And it shows like the water level. Weird.
Yeah, the
Like
turtles
it's
getting stuck in
great.
the seaweed and stuff. Oh my god, that's all I remember.
Dude, that's freaking great. So what do you do for work currently?
I am a fabricator, or I'm a welder, and I TIG weld stainless steel equipment for food processing plants. So a lot of conveyors, a lot of different machines that'll pick up food and put it on a conveyor. If you watch the show How It's Made, I probably built a machine that's like what's on the show.
Okay. How long have you been doing that for, Victor?
TIG welding itself, I've been doing for about 2 years. Welding in general, I've been doing since I was like 24, 25. I've had done MIG and stick in the past, and then I worked my way up to. I learned how to TIG weld in house. I started off, at a new place from the bottom, and they just kind of showed me, how to weld, and I gravitated toward it because I had experience welding, just not with a TIG welder.
Okay. So you said in the questionnaire that being this welder was therapeutic. What's so therapeutic about it?
I like when I know I got a pass that I got to do and a seam that I've got to weld off. I put my hood down. You see the light flash, and you just like I mean I zone in, and it's therapeutic seeing like dabbing and seeing everything come together. Like you're just flowing. It's like art. It's like it's a consistent. You're trying to make this thing look pretty because I mean. As a welder myself, I look around when I'm out and about in a grocery store and I see something that's welded, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm not trying to be, but I know someone out there is looking at my work the same way. And then when you get done, you see a pretty, bead put down, and I'm just like, yeah, that feels really good.
Do you have to say that to yourself when you see that? Like, okay, Victor, we look and observe and we do not judge.
Now I have to remind myself, and I'm just like, yeah, and I don't do that with a lot of stuff, but I mean, I take a lot of pride in my work too, just like how you see me in the bowling world. I'm like that with what I do at work too. So I love it. It's therapeutic to me. I do get burned on occasions. Sometimes you'll see, stuff on my on my forearms because I'll forget. Oh yeah, that pull rod's hot. Don't touch yourself with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I'm drilling a bowling ball, and I've been using the same 31/32 drill bit on like 5 or 6 balls in a row. And yeah, in 20 years, I probably burnt myself just as much as you have in the welding. And I was teaching my part timer that when she came on, and she just was about to do it. And at first, I was like, "So do I let her do it and let her learn the lesson, or do I keep her from doing it?" And of course, me, I'm like, "No, don't touch that." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "If you want to find out, go ahead." And I don't know what happened, but it's like I walked out, I come back in, and she forgot what I told her, and she touched it. She's like, "Okay, I know what you mean now." I'm like, okay, lessons
Yeah.
learned.
Constantly doing that. And like I said, constantly welding, like Brian's saying, he adds a bond. You're bonding two parent metals together and then filling it. it's a lot of heat, and so sometimes I just forget where my hands are, and I'm like, oh yeah, there goes another burn.
Well, let me do a little reminder here, Victor. So, everybody out there listening to Calling All Bowlers here, first and foremost, want to thank you for coming in. We got Victor Cortez here from the great state of Nebraska, also representing Illinois. So, I'm going to take a 2-for-1 here. Anybody's got any questions for Victor? We're going to do a Q&A at the end. Our good buddy Brian is taking the questions down. So, if you do have a question for Victor, Patrick, welcome in. Everybody coming in, thank you so much for joining us. So if you've got a question, tag Brian in here. You see him, he's got the post. He'll pin that, I'm sure. And when we get to the ending segment, towards the end of the show, we're going to bring all those questions out, and we're going to let Victor go to town on them and give us his expertise. So another thing I wanted to ask you, non-bowling related. Okay, you said music, guitar, pianos. You said you like music in general. Victor's favorite music genre.
Oh, favorite music genre. Let's I think most people would call it alternative rock, but those in the know, because of course the new stuff's out there and it's heavier. We like to call it dad rock. So yeah, Shine Down, Breaking Benjamin's my all-time favorite. So you'll constantly get Breaking Benjamin stuff if I ever do like a highlight reel. Seether, Papa Roach, that kind of stuff. 3 Days Grace, like when Adam was on, not so much when Adam wasn't on, but yeah, that's what I listen to.
Dude, you are taking me back to my childhood, bro. You know, a couple
Yeah.
years ago, I actually took Curtis to his first ever concert, and it was Shine Down, 3 Days Grace, and it was some other band that sounded very similar to Linkin Park, and I forget their name. So forgive
Mhm.
me, they were good. Shine Down is all about the pyro. I don't know if you know that. If you've ever
Oh
been to
yeah,
one of the shows, they are all
I,
about
I
the pyro.
I saw
And
them
my
first time when they were came out with the Sound of Madness album, so they were just coming up. But yeah, afterwards,
So yeah, it definitely made my heart jump out a few because I wasn't expecting it, and it was closed inside too. That's the thing. I figure if it's outside, it's okay because sound can expand. But inside,
Mhm.
I was literally like anticipating like to be on the song, and I'd be like, and I'd turn away because I knew it when it was coming. But you
Yeah.
know, there's Curtis just like, hey, I love the noise, and it's like, oh my god, okay, I'm giving away my age there, I guess.
No, you're totally fine. And I also got to give a shout out to all the emos out there. I was an emo kid. My Chemical Romance, and I wore
Oh,
skinny jeans. So yeah, 100%.
you talk about skinny jeans. For me, it was Jinkos.
Yeah,
It was
I
Jinkos. That was the
remember
goth crowd.
those.
That was the goth
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah,
I swear, I feel like I saw a video on here the other day where this girl put on a pair of Jinkos and she was putting everything she could in a set of pockets, and
yeah.
it was like a book, and it was like, here's my keys, here's my purse. It was like, yeah, Jinkos fit everything, man.
You do. That was the look back
Oh,
then.
oh man, dude, made me go back in time there, Victor. Dadgummit. All right, here's this. Okay, tell us something that most people don't know about Victor.
Yes, jeez. Well, I mean, I do love music to the extent that I actually play some, and a lot of people probably haven't. You'll catch me on my live stream singing along, and I'm doing it like
Mhm.
half goofily. But yeah, I learned like guitar and piano, and so I like the music's like near and dear to me. I think it was in High Fidelity with John Cusack. It's like I can't put it on as background noise. Like I gravitate towards it. So yeah, I actually do play and cover. I've covered stuff in the past. I don't know if I want to put that kind of stuff up on TikTok, but driving to my destination kind of, I'm like, it's still kind of there.
I think some. I should have told you to get your guitar, man. If you had one, you could have played a little for us. That would have been great.
Oh, it probably sound a little weird right now. I've been restringing that thing in forever, but yeah, I do
Uh,
love that kind of setting. Campfire music, just play away.
the acoustic guitar by
Yeah,
the
I got an
fire.
acoustic power acoustic guitar. It's a Washburn. It's in really good shape still. I'm surprised. And I used to have a Ibanez ART electric guitar, but I haven't had a an electric guitar in a while. Everything's been on acoustic.
Okay. See, you even shot Britt there. She didn't know you played the guitar or play the guitar currently.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Hmm.
people that don't know. And music's near and dear to me. On the way here, I just had a lot of music going on, and I just sang along with it, and I just kind of got lost.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, you know what? Uh, again, guitar music, dude. I'm telling you, man. Yeah. See, when you said that in the questionnaire, I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about guitars and stuff because that's cool. I think the acoustics are. I think it goes along with that whole like I can listen to ASMR acoustic guitar.
Oh,
I
hundred
can listen to
percent.
that stuff, and that stuff just relaxes you.
Yep.
So holy yeah. So
Any
holy cow,
kind
I'm
of,
with you there.
yeah.
Okay.
Spanish strings, all of it. I am all for acoustic guitars.
Oh man, absolutely. Well, all right. So there's what little non-bowling stuff about Victor that you may or may not have known about our good buddy Victor Cortez. Once again, episode 18, calling all bowlers. I am so happy to have you all in here. Again, if you have any questions you want to ask Victor, tag Brian. He's going to take a list of them and he's going to post them for us when we get to the Q&A segment towards the end of the program. But now we go into what we all have in common here. We're going into the bowling stuff. We might pigeonhole a little bit of this stuff. I can give you an example. When I interviewed Rich, I think episode 6, we got into a really big discussion about bowling and handicap. And I was like, dude, we could talk about this all night. But let's see what we could get into here, Victor. So tell us, how long have you been bowling?
It's funny, Michelle's in the chat because she's gonna know exactly what I'm gonna say. It's like her favorite thing that I say to my live stream. I put it this way: there's home video of me rolling oranges in the hallway in diapers. Like I've had a passion for bowling for a very, very long time, and it's me and my dad used to watch the PBA tour, on TV, and I'd watch guys there, and then he would take me to league when he had to bowl because I mean, he had to take his kid. Like we let mom kind of do whatever he wanted to do, and yeah, that's kind of where I kind of got to it. I did a lot of bowling when I was younger,
Okay.
so
Um,
as long as I
well,
can
wait,
remember.
do you remember your first youth league then?
First youth league was I think we were bowling for a Game Boy, and if I can elaborate on this story, it's actually kind of cool. So I
Yes.
didn't really bowl in a league for a long time. My dad just let me bowl 3 games whenever I went to bowl. So it's kind of like a league, but not really. Once we finally got me into a league, it was one of those leagues where you bowl for like a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color. And my dad was like, um, "We're not getting you a Game Boy." I'm like, "Why? I want the as a kid, I want the Game Boy. Give me the Game Boy, Dad."
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I think it's far enough removed from like Brunswick zones now that we talked to the GM. He talked to the GM, and she was just like, "Well, let me see what I can do." And that was where I got my first reactive ball. I didn't get a Game Boy. I got a Zone Proactive, and that
Zone
changed my life.
Pro.
Yeah,
Wow. Zone
when
Pro.
I knew
Oh,
a ball can curve,
goodness.
that changed everything.
Uh huh. Oh. Do you remember what age you were when you threw that ball?
It had to have been like 7 or 8. Yeah, it was a 10 pound Zone Proactive. And that's how I got my first reactive ball. Was through a league where I should have got a Game Boy, but they said, yeah, well, we don't have to order one anymore. We'll just give you a reactive ball, and I loved it.
It's almost like your dad knew what he was doing, Victor.
Yeah, he's got a good brain on him. He really does. Like he's and he you can see how proud he is now of like everything that's come of it. So I love it.
Man, dude, that's great. Like you talked about using your first reactive like 7 or 8. I didn't use my first reactive till 14
Yeah.
because they were so all about back then, and I think I kind of do that now. But I have to remember like what I was learning that age. They're not doing that now because that's how much the game has evolved.
Yeah.
But they were all about roll straight, aim straight, work on your spares, and I think that's something we could dive into. Is like I personally feel that spare shooting is a lost art.
Mhm.
I don't know if you would agree with that or disagree with that. Um,
I wholeheartedly agree. And I mean, kids strike at will these days now. Like why shoot a spare when you can throw a 9 bagger? So
I use a great example. The other night in league, I had 7 strikes in a game and only shot 209. I I cannot. I don't understand. how that can't resonate within someone about spare shooting. So that's the coach coming out in me, along with the pro shop operator. But such is life, I guess.
Yeah, it happens. It happened to me last week. 215 with two missed spares, and I'm like, gosh, dang it.
Yep. um, how many leagues are you in right now? We know you bowl tournaments a lot on the weekends, but how many leagues are you in right now?
I just bowl one league a week. Like I said, last year I was subbing, but this year it's literally just been one league a week. And I just do it for fun. It's a different environment. I do it because obviously I got to be out there, be saying now representing a brand. It's a good thing that I am in the league, but I'm out there to, you still shoot a good game, but not be so caught up in bowling well. Just hanging out with my friends and now streaming for everybody and watching me. But yeah, it's definitely a more casual thing for me to bowl league.
So, with that answer, would you say you use league bowling as a means of practice since you save that competitive drive for tournaments?
This is probably gonna is gonna rack a lot of brains here. I don't really I the league is its own thing. And when I actually practice, like that's where I shut off the score and just focus on my stuff mechanically and whatnot. Because in league, you're still shooting for score, so you can't really like get creative. So no, league is just league and it's more casual. But practice, whenever I actually do get my butt, and my buddy Blake's asking me to come out to practice more. That's my dojo. That's where I put in the work.
Okay. Um, okay, this is more of like a question for everybody out there in general. Kind of like you giving everybody advice on here. How do you separate mentally from leagues and tournaments?
Yeah, for sure. Like in leagues, you'll see that I'm a lot more social. If you watch my live streams, I'm singing. Like especially when they got that Usher playing, I'm just like, ooh, give me that, and I start singing or Backstreet Boys. Um,
Mm.
but like in tournaments, it's more like I'm way more quiet. Like and you'll see it on my live streams. I'm paying attention to the chat during league. I'm social. I'm talking to people. In tournaments, I'm way more quiet. I am focused. I'm there to do a job. So, and it's different because a lot of people probably want me to be social like I am in league, and I'm just like, now's not the time for that. And I'll talk to you a little bit, but I'm here. I'm here to work. I'm here to do a job.
Yeah, I got that first experience in one of your tournament feeds, and I think I was trying to motivate you or something. And you were like, "That doesn't work for me, D Gab," and I'm like, "Oh, well, you sound like my buddy Jonathan Bertram." I'm like, "Okay, cool, got it."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's hard because, like, I know people want to be helpful and whatnot, but I have to be in a zone in my own environment. I got to trust what I'm doing, or like I'm not going to get anywhere. And I've told that to my chat repeatedly. It's just like, look, like even if you see it that it's wrong, I have to trust my gut and go with what I got. You know.
Mhm.
So
Well, it's like I think that's one of the disadvantages, and of course, like I said, when you wind your tournament career down, and you come into the pro shop, you're going to run into a lot of people that have over a million coaches in their ear,
oh
and
yeah,
you're going to be racking your brain, buddy. You're going to be like, "Oh my goodness gracious! Like really? Like we're really dealing with this, and it's going to
yeah.
rack your brain." So, I am giving you of 20 years experience a fair warning for that.
And I can't wait for that because
Get
I know it's
ready.
gonna happen. I'm gonna be like, who told you what? Like,
All right. So I think this is one of those topics like I wanted to ask your personal opinion on because it was again, Victor, one of the things and I want to I want to pay you this compliment. Again, you are very descriptive. You back up things with facts. You give what you think is an opinion and you make it just. So that brings me to this. How does Victor feel about the current state of bowling? It's a two-parter. How do you feel about the current state of bowling, league bowling, and how do you feel about the state of bowling as in tournament bowling?
league bowling, I think we're in a great spot. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that are bowling in general, recreationally, and that like watching people like us. Oh, I want to get into a league and ask questions. I think we're in a better spot than we ever have been with social media. Exposing this to people so that they see that, hey, maybe I want to get into a league myself. So I think you got more people joining, whether they're sanctioned or unsanctioned is a different story, but I think you got people bowling leagues in general. And so that's been a good thing. Two-handed bowling's been helping with that. People are gravitating towards that, and like I say, it's a smarter way to bowl. If you want to start bowling, that's the way I would prefer you go. Um, and tournament wise, you see a lot of that too. Those good two-handers show up in bowl tournaments, and they don't bowl scared, which is crazy to me because when I started, I was bowling amateur bowling tournaments back in Chicago. They were handicapped, but they were on sports shots. And first one I got lucky. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fine. And then the next 10 were just like, oh my god, what am I doing? And so it's intimidating when. And I remember my first regional getting paired up with Anthony Lacaze, who's a local bowler, but he's got a PBA title and 3 Eagles. And I'm just like, man, this is intimidating. And these kids nowadays, they're just like, I'm here, I'm good. I'm like, okay, great, that's awesome. I wish I had your. But I think we're in a good state overall with bowling tournaments and bowling leagues. It's not perfect, but it's good.
I completely agree with you as far as that, like that whole, like you just said, like, oh my goodness, that's Anthony Lecrae's, like, holy cow. When I did a youth clinic, and it was really cool because, again, it's, 2003, just shot my first 300 as a youth. And me and my buddy Nathan, who I'm still bowling in league with, we got to do the clinic with Bob Learn and Mike Seeley, and we got to actually bowl against both of them. And so that, I felt the same way as you. I was like, holy cow, like, dude, this is Mr. 300 right here. This is like
Yeah,
4 games on TV, record setting Bob Learn Jr. Like, holy cow. So, and I think that I think you hit it nail on the head. Like, the kids are like, okay, I'm here. This is what it is. They're so
yeah.
nonchalant. It's
it's
weird.
it's a different mindset, and I'm not used to it. I'm just like, man, kid, when I was in your shoes, like I was cutting my teeth. I mean, cutting my teeth. Like it's different. But yeah, these days they're just like, hey, I'm here to bowl just like you are, and they make the next cut like I do.
How do you and for anybody that would hate on that, how do you hate on that? Because I mean, that's a great mindset to go into a tournament with. Like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so let's see. Yeah. Okay. So second part, state of tournaments.
Yeah, I think it's good that we have a variety of tournaments now. Like we have things that cater to people that need a little handicap to bowl, and we have scratch tournaments to bowl. I think what happens is that we don't realize like how difficult this game is, and I know that's probably something we'll talk about in general. But tournaments, I believe, are in a good spot now. We have, unfortunately, people trying to like upset the system sometimes, and that gives us that gives bowling in general a bad look because it's kind of hard to trust what people's handicaps are these days. But I think overall, I think for the communities themselves, bowling has been good. It does need a little bit of work more so than league bowling, but I think it's more on us to like advertise these tournaments and showcase that it's not so scary to do, you know, because once people get into tournaments, it's just like, oh, yeah, I can definitely do this. This is fun. This is I'm learning stuff. This is and it feeds into um, what you want to achieve as a bowler. So I think we're in a good state. I think we're not as good of a state in the leagues, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a way for us to improve, though. It's just you realize how difficult this stuff can be.
I think more so now, leagues are really more about logistics, especially competitive leagues. I don't know if you would
Mm.
agree with that or not.
Yeah, a lot of it is, and some centers are popular just because of like where they lie. Because I mean, I remember we had a center back home that I didn't really want to be a part of, but it was closer to me, and I made the extra effort to go elsewhere. Not everybody did. A lot of people hung back. So yeah, a lot of it is logistics for sure. Tournaments can be the same way too. Like the tournament that I'm going to though this weekend, like it's in Muscatine, so it's going to draw from Chicago, it's going to draw from Minnesota, it's going to draw from St. Louis, and it's drawing us Nebraskans to come over. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with that.
What's the format for that tournament?
8 game sweeper. So we go in there. I'm bowling with Jasmine, and I think we both bowl full games. If Darren's still in the chat, maybe he can clarify for that. But because he's bowling it too, um, and combined score wins. There's no step ladder. It's just all score, and that's
Just eight
probably the
games.
fairest we. Just 8 games,
Just
yeah,
eight games. Okay. All right. Eight
yeah.
games across the board. Gotcha. That brings us to the next question here for you, Victor. Again, another two-parter. Uh, Name some of your short-term bowling goals and name your long-term bowling goals.
Short-term bowling goals, and it's funny because I kind of adjusted this now after going to therapy and after we went over the questionnaire. Like the short-term bowling goals would be like to make a step ladder for the Greater Iowa at the end of the month. Um, just because that Greater Iowa, the Ebonite Fall Winter Classic that we're doing now, I've had some success in there, and I keep creeping up in the standings every time I bowl it. So I like to be able to make the step ladder this time around, and it's a really good tournament. We'll draw like 150 bowlers for this thing, and it's going to be a good one. But and then once again, just drawing from all over the place. The other thing I really want to do this year is we have an Ironman tournament in Omaha that we host, and we bowl 8 games on short, 8 games on long, and total pins wins. I didn't catch the first one, but the next two I ended up winning back to back. The last one I didn't do so hot, but I still cashed. So I'd love to be able to regain that title again and reclaim that Ironman for sure. Long term, like I said, long term for me, the long game is to get into a pro shop and have a great customer base and treat the community well and do everything that I can as a pro shop operator. I think that's the end goal. The end goal would be to be able to own and operate a shop and do good by the community.
Um, so you go. A lot of these lives I see, a lot of these tournaments are long formats. So I know some, not all of them are long formats, but I really wanted to pick your brain on this one. How do you prepare yourself physically for a long format tournament? Like what? Like take us through the mindset, take us through the physical mindset, just the physical mental prospect of all that.
Sure. I'm very unique. And so I'm the type, and it drives people crazy. I know Keith's in the chat, and he's probably going to agree with this. I'll show up 10 minutes before a tournament because my mindset is like sometimes these regionals, we have a Friday practice session, and then we have the tournament on Saturday. Well, the Friday practice session is going to play completely different than the Saturday because when you lay an oil pattern down, just the characteristics of how it's going to get sprayed down or the topography of the lane that day is going to make them play different. So I don't like going in with a preconceived notion. I'm really like prepping myself mentally to just be like, see what you see and go from there. I'll do like when I get ready for a tournament, I'll do everything the same way. I'll put on my shoes, just kind of like, get loose or whatever, do a couple, rotational things just to make sure that my body's good. But that's also to feel where my body's at. Once I do this, is my back tight, or my shoulders tight, just feel out where I'm at physically. And then once I get into practicing, take it slow. You don't want your first shot at 100. My first shot is always like 50%. And in practice, I'll get up to 60, 70, 80. And I'm doing that from the very, very far right part of the lane so that one, I break down that part of the lane. Two, I don't mess up the middle part of the lane while I'm warming up because those first few shots are going to be inconsistent. Like my body's not loose. There's no way I can put a ball on a dime at that point. But by shot five, six, maybe. And that's where we start lining up. So it's just getting myself mentally prepared to be able to see what's out there and adjust to it because that's what this game is. I can't go in with a preconceived notion of how they're going to play because probably 90% of the time I'm going to change on the fly. I just got to be ready to make an adjustment.
So with I love the mindset that is because there are so many people like if they're bowling like say a state tournament, the biggest thing they do, especially if it's like 6 to 8 hours away, they want to come in here on a Friday night and they want to practice. They want to get a feel. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That's awesome advice. And if I ever get my footing back to where I can do some more tournaments, then that I'm not going to forget that. So you're the man for that, Victor. And I think a lot of people right here, like Milani right here, oh, that's great to know. So look at that.
It's
Uh,
taking me a while to figure it out, but that's the system I go by.
well, again, people, you got to understand, and I think this is kind of a little learning lesson I've had too, is like what one person learns. So, like, if a person learns at like 60%, somebody might learn at 20%, but it's still the same whether the number is different or not. It's just like like what your caliber is, and it's okay. It
Mhm.
takes people a little bit longer than others. So, even like I said, Mark said it right here. Never thought about it that way, but yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and I
Well,
said
the
it
other thing
makes
about
sense
that
for me.
too, Mark, is you don't. You're unique too, my friend, because Mark has like 2.5 positive access points, and he'll
Yeah.
get a good laugh out of that one. Oh me, don't bowl before you mow is the motto. Miss Swan, I love it. All right, this is. I know what your favorite ball is. You told me in the questionnaire, but I'm going to throw a little kink into it for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Name your top 5 bowling balls of all time that you have personally used.
Oof. Top five, and that's hard because now you started getting into five, and there's going to be a lot of balls fighting each other there. So
Uh-huh.
the first one for sure is the Defiant Soul, and I didn't like my first one, but it struck a lot, and I gave it to my brother, and then I re-drilled one after it got discontinued. I actually found a new unbox, drilled that, and I struck for days and wanted to get it to work on everything, and it worked majority of the time, but I wanted to get it to strike on everything. Number two for me is probably the Storm Lucid. I got a lot of fond memories with that. It not only looked cool color wise, it moved good. It was an asymmetric pearl. Belmo actually used it to win his first Masters title, and it smelled like Fruity Pebbles. So it was it was good in my book. Three is the Danger Zone, the vintage, the one that they actually remade. You'll see that a couple of times on TV. Dan McClellan used it in a master show there. Four and five are going to be tough, man. I'm going to say High Road is definitely up there, but the High Road Pearl. High Road Pearl, I drilled a few of those.
The
Um,
original high road you said.
no, the High Road Pearl. It's the
Oh,
purple one that
oh,
smells like
okay.
grapes. And you're going to hear
Mhm.
me say the Storm Balls. I remember the scents because that's how often I use these balls. I just be like, man, this thing's like my favorite thing ever. I'm just going to, all right, we're good to go. And number five, man. You know what? Number five, it's not going to be Stormball. It's actually the Primal Rage, the
Oh
original
yeah. Okay.
Primal Rage. Yeah, that one came up clutch for me in a tournament. I went 828, I think, and we had a clean pot in ABT. And I was playing a part of the lane that only I could play. And this ball, I threw the first shot, buried it. It's a 33 clean pot, so you had to fill two marks in the 10th frame on a sports shot. And so I threw the first one, great. Second one fell off my hand completely. Completely. I had nothing on it. Just, I'm like, oh my God, I just gave away this giant, like, clean pot. It tubed up and went 10 back. That guaranteed me, that guaranteed me 4 grand. And so the last
Ooh.
one, I'm like, there's no pressure on this. I already got 4 grand locked up. Whacked it, 7 grand for that
Yep.
clean pot. Yeah. That's
Dude,
how I put a
that's
down payment on my car.
so. Would it be fair to say, based off that logic, that if you're going after 300, is the 11th or 12th shot more difficult?
I think the 11th one is because once you got 11 locked up, like there's so many things that like 299 still looks good, right? And if you're in pots, side stuff, like you still got a pretty good chance to win it after hitting 290 because you miss once anywhere in the game. Like, it is what it is. It's funny. Kevin remembers that. See, it's a true story, guys. I'm not, I'm not kidding. And that promo rage was good. Um, but yeah, I felt no pressure like after the 11th shot. I was just like, we're good to go. I got this, and I nailed the last one. I think the 11th one is the one that people put a lot of like. Maybe you don't realize you have a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of pressure on that one. 12 is like either you do or you don't.
Huh? I have to say for your top 5 here, Victor, I'm very surprised that the phase two didn't get on this list since that's what I see you use most of.
Yeah, unfortunately, like a lot of these on the list are discontinued balls. Like, and I know they came out with like a Primal Rage for sure. I think once, if it ever does happen, Phase Two is definitely going to be in that category, and it might take that number three spot from that Danger Zone.
So
Maybe
safe
the
to
number
say
two.
we're going to call that an honorable mention.
It is an honorable mention, but I'm still using it. And once I say bye bye to that one, that's where it's going to be near and dear to my heart. That's why I thought about those fives because I don't have all of those anymore. I do still have a Defiant Soul.
Oh, all right. So we're at this part of the show, and I came up with this, and I figured you'd be the first. You would be the best candidate to do this for the first time. But coming into calling all bowlers here, we have a new segment called guest topic discussion. And when I asked you about it, you were like clear cut. This is what it needs to be. Bowling difficulty was your topic, and when I
Yeah,
read the answer to your questionnaire, that resonated in me. I was like, Victor, this is like we are on the same wavelength because I completely like feel the same way. Like you can have the Great Wall of China, you can have a 40 board area. You still have to have the skill to hit what you need to hit for your style to still strike. Because I tell people
absolutely.
all the time, one of my best games is 209. Like you're in the pocket the whole game and you just can't carry and you shoot 209. You're like, I'm clean. Like, how did this happen? So, bowling difficulty, give us your thoughts and throw in also, like, why did you choose bowling difficulty as your guest topic?
It's kind of funny because this actually kind of came about this week while I was at work. So at work, I listen to my live streams back. I don't watch them. Like I'll have my phone next to me, but it's kind of frowned upon to kind of like, weld something hot and then look over at my phone for a shot. So I'll just have it on in my ear. And so it's kind of a way for me. My coworker was just like, "Is that you bowling?" I said, "Yeah," because everyone at work knows I bowl. Everybody at work knows I TikTok. And he saw a shot and he was just like, "Ah, man, you didn't strike on that one." I'm like, "No, it's not as easy as it looks." He's like, "Easy? I never thought it was easy. I can't bowl worth of anything." And so as bowlers, I think we get in our own way about this kind of stuff because we're consistently doing leagues. We're bowling on the house shot. We're putting up numbers. But if you take that away for a second and realize that there's a lot more bowlers that average, maybe not even in the 100s, they're recreational bowlers and they do it. Like it's really hard for them to be consistent as you grow, you start averaging 120, 130, 140. We are in a position most of the time where we forget we were ever there because we average 220 now. So you get into a house shot and, they're made for you to score. There's oil on the inside to hold your ball on line, there's dry on the outside, but your 220 is still better than about 90 to 95% of the population that has picked up a bowling ball. So that's where I think we just get in our own way about that kind of stuff. And then you start throwing tournaments on top of that and sports shots, and it's a whole different, you get a lot of people that are intimidated by that stuff that do average 220. And so you want to talk about difficult, like the difficulty lies in you're literally the game that you are playing. You throw a 15 pound or whatever weight a ball you use down a 60-foot lane, and the lane is 42 inches wide. You forget how narrow that thing is compared to how long it is. And on top of that, you're playing on an invisible golf course. You don't even see the peaks and valleys. You don't see the sand traps, the water hazards, or anything like that. You have to go off of your ball reaction. So we take it for granted how difficult it is. I know in social media and everybody wants to say, bowling's easy. Yeah, if it's so easy, bowl somebody that's been around the block a little bit. Bowl them for 7 games. So I said we neglect how difficult this thing is, and it is incredibly difficult because you ask anybody that's just out with their friends, they probably can't shoot 200, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they haven't developed the skills and haven't. You take for granted what you know.
My Dustin's in the chat here. He says that's a great comparison slash analogy. So
Yeah, so do it one time when you watch the old shows. Just see how long overhead the view is compared to how wide the view is. It's different.
and the thing about it is, it's difficult. Yes. One of the things I try to explain on some shows previously is like, look, is there area? Yes, there absolutely is. There's a lot of miss room on your league shots, and then you throw them on a sports shot. I used to do this about 8 years ago. I would literally on a Wednesday night, we had nothing going, and I would put out a sports shot, and my early league would get done. I'm like, hey guys, you bowled on your league shot. Do you want to come down here and try this shot? And they're like, well, what is it? And you kind of like tell them a little bit about it. And they get down there, and there's two types of people I've learned through bowling on a more difficult pattern. You got one your group of people that are like, Wow. Okay. Like I see. Like my eyes are open. Like, and those are the people who are like, this is kind of fun. And then you
Mm,
have those people where they're like, I don't like this. This is terrible. Y'all really do this, and it's like you know.
yeah, there's still
So
solutions to be found on those patterns, and the guys that are really good at and controlled with their bodies to be able to repeat the shots in the same spot over and over again. And on top of that, pay attention to their ball motion to say, oh crap, I need to make a ball change. The one that I'm in is not exactly great. Like it's a whole layer, separate layers of difficulty there. So, like I said, we forget how hard this sport is, you know.
mm,
And
it,
that's why,
it
like
is.
in these tournaments, like I do this. I'm traveling again this weekend. I do this because I'm confident enough to match myself up against the others out there. It is scary for a lot of people to get their teeth kicked in for a little bit. I've done that, and this is where I'm at now.
All right. I don't have this on here. I just you said everything you said, Victor, and I want to ask you this. Okay, so take us through a process. Okay, and what I mean by that is you're bowling a tournament. Let's say you're bowling on a 2-1, like a pretty difficult pattern. Not completely flat, but pretty dead gum close. So you're playing it, and again, you play outside like you said. Um, Take us through the process of like what are you looking for in regards to, let's say, a matchup with a bowling ball? Like where do you start with one particular ball and then ball up, ball down? Take us through that process of what Victor does during the trying to figure out the tournament shot that's out.
Sure. So I throw reactive majority of practice because if I throw urethane and I think urethane's in play, I don't want to give that secret away right away. People are watching. So let's get the reactive stuff out of the way and see how they're shaping up. I'm throwing the ball and I'm seeing what I'm really looking for is how quick this ball goes from skid, hook, roll. If it never gets into a roll, then that's an issue. But also, if it gets into that roll too quick, where it looks like it's literally like a hockey stick, or a golf club where it's just jagged like that, that's also a problem too. That's not controllable. I'm looking for this nice, smooth, gradual hook window, and I'm trying to find it moving my feet left and right, but also with my equipment. And so I'll start into the middle of my bag. I'll start with, actually, no, I start at the top of my bag. I'll start with a gem, right? And the gem's going to be that big, slow, churny ball. And, if it doesn't hook, it means it's probably too strong, so we'll ball down off of it. If it does one of these where it hockey sticks, then I know, oh crap, my strongest ball doesn't have that slow window like it's supposed to. And that's where I started getting into urethane. Keep in mind, I know I am in a very, very unique class where I have a 500 rev rate. And so, but basically, I'm throwing urethane because, especially for those first two games where the pattern is really fresh, on a sports shot, and a house shot's a different story. In a sports shot, I want my angle straight. I want my angle straight because there's nothing developed in the pattern. The middle of the pattern's flat. The outside doesn't have any built-in hook yet. As you throw these shots down, the pattern starts to shape into a spot where you can throw it away from you and start scoring. So I want to be able to play straighter through the front and have this nice gradual hook into the pocket that's controllable. If it does one of two things, if it never gets there, or if it gets there too quick, then that's a no-go.
So fair to say, arc is good on sport patterns.
Absolutely. Arc, smooth, angular. I know angular balls get advertised because those are great on house shots, but that's because those house shots have a design where you have basically a sport pattern becomes a house shot essentially. It doesn't 100%, but it opens up like a house shot where you have oil on the inside and dry to the outside. On a house shot, that starts off that way already. So when you have these angular balls, sometimes you can throw them game one in a house shot. And then as they cliff, then you look for a different solution. On the sport patterns, you want that gradual, I'm going to control the pocket until they get to a point where you feel like you got some misroom left and some misroom right, and you're like, okay, now we can start looking at less arcy, more angular stuff.
Okay. Very good description there, my friend. I couldn't have said it better myself. So we're getting into the last call segment of our program. Once again, guys, Calling All Bowlers, episode 18. Victor Cortez joining us. Victor, like I said, buddy, I love having you on here. I'm glad to get you on here. All the stuff and everything. I'm looking at some of these comments and everything. Can't wait for us to get to the Q&A. So if anybody has a question they want to ask Victor, again, tag Brian, throw the question there, and Brian's gonna fire away when we get to that segment. So we're in the last call of this one, Victor. With that being said, what has been the most important life lesson that you've learned?
And it's funny how much this relates to bowling, but it's also funny how much it's just a general life lesson. Control what you can control. If you can try to control what you can't control, the stuff that's around you, you'll lose your mind trying to control it. So you have every ability to put action, or you have all the ability in the world to put into action what you want to make happen. But everything around you has a mind of its own, and you'll lose your mind trying to control it. So that's my number one thing. If it's out of my hands, there's no sense worrying about it. I can just plug away and do what I can do to make any situation as good as it can be.
Okay. Um, if if you have a story here, Victor, tell us the story behind the experience that helped you learn that lesson. Was there a story? Was there something that happened in particular?
Yeah, for sure. Like so, it's funny enough. I was unique when I played baseball. I was a switch hitter, so that means I batted left-handed and right-handed. And like I remember when I first brought it up to my youth coach, who ended up being my travel ball coach. He um, I told him, I'm like, I can bat left-handed. And they're like, nah, you can't do it. Like, that we're not going to try that. Like, you're too young. That's too complicated. Like, you're not going to do that. And I was so adamant about showing them that I could do it. First time that I did it, I hit a triple right off the bat. I smoked one, and it was phenomenal. And then he's at third base coach, and he's just like, okay, you can switch it. And so we grew up. He was basically my main coach as I grew up, like giving me life lessons all the time. Just he was hard on me, but he loved me, kind of thing. Like he just wanted to make sure that I knew what my value was. And he's just like, don't talk yourself out of it, that kind of thing. But travel ball only got me so far, and I was getting ready into high school, to get into high school. And I remember he pulled me off to the side, and he's just like, hey, if they tell you you can't switch it, don't let them tell you you can't switch it. Like, that's who you are. That is you are good at it, and that's what you should be doing. And so oddly enough, I ran into that situation where they only wanted me to bat right-handed because I had a lot more power that way. I mean, I'm talking triples are going this way, home runs are going that way. And I was adamant. I'm just like, hey, I need to switch hit. It's a big advantage for me to switch hit. And so I think the life lesson there was you are you, you're unique. You've worked at what you've worked at. You're good at it. Embrace that you're good at it. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it.
I wonder how many people told Chipper Jones not to be a switch hitter. Just a curious question. I wonder every day, and we know, like I said, he's a Hall of Famer. And
And
again, it's one of the things. It's like if I can add on to what you said there, Victor. It's like I've told people in the pro shop, you're going to have a million coaches in your ear. They're going to tell you a bunch of different stuff. Pick one or two people that you really know and trust and go that route and just kind of let that go in one ear and out the other for those that, I think it's like one of my, and again, Dustin will probably have to correct me for saying this, but you're not really going to care about somebody's opinion you wouldn't take any advice from. And I probably butchered that, but I think that Dustin will concur with me if I said that right. If not, he's going to give me crap for it. So,
no, and that's
um,
100% it.
so with that being said, with what you just told us, Victor, is that the best advice you were ever given?
I
Don't
think
let.
that is, yeah, I think what is done, which is funny enough, because I know me and you have talked on other streams. Um, it almost got re-cemented in when I started going to see my therapist because we were talking about what I was battling and all the other stuff, like what my mental makeup is. And she had brought up imposter syndrome, and I was like, what is that? What, no, like, what are you talking about? And she was like, where you don't believe you're as good as you think you are. And I'm like, crap,
Mm.
man. I had coaches telling me in my ear all the time to embrace like how hard I work and all the other stuff. So I think it got re-cemented in to be like, you know what? Yeah, like like I know what I can control. I know what I can work at. And I think that is 100%. Like it came around full circle just recently when I started going to therapy. It's just like, yeah, this is you. You're unique. Be you. Be yourself.
When did you start going to therapy, and what was the lead up to that decision being made, Victor?
The therapy like started in November, and there was just a lot of like I found myself like I never really paid attention to it before, but there was a lot of stuff that led up to it as far as like how angry I was getting, like how quick triggered I was. Like I really, there was no gradual. Oh, I'm getting frustrated. It was just like 100, and I'm just like, I got to do something about this. Something's off. Like I need to grow. I need to be a better person about this. So, um, that's the whole idea about going to therapy. That's the whole idea about, not being stuck in my old ways because I thought that I had everything under control. It's realizing that I didn't have everything under control and I needed help, and it's not bad to ask for help. I was messing stuff up. And so this is my way to kind of put myself back on the correct path, and it's helped tremendously. Even that second session that I had, I was just like, oh wow, it really opened up my eyes quite a bit. So, realizing, where my ADHD lied, like where it was at, and realizing that um, I couldn't control it all myself. I needed a little bit of guidance. It's helped me. It's helped me at work. It's helped me in bowling. It's helped me with TikTok in general. It's given me direction to know who I am and embrace who I am, and turn that into a positive and try to find a good way to channel it.
So from November 2024, say 2 months later now, 2 to 3 months later, where do you feel like you're at mentally now?
I think I'm in a much, much better spot. I even told her, I'm just like, we got a new welder that came in. He can't be more than, I think he said it was like 23, 24 years old. And the dude's phenomenal. I mean, the dude's really good, but I had no ego up. I had no ego about it. Like he came in and I'm just like, I could have took it as, always coming for my job kind of thing, but I took it as, you know what, I'm still good. Like I don't have to worry about seeing him as a threat. We're a team. I could have got egotistical about it. Absolutely could have got egotistical about it. But I'm like, you know what? I'll help you. I'll help you catch up with what we're doing. But man, I am impressed with what you do already. And that's what I told him. And I think bowling wise, I think even in my live streams, you see me getting less triggered about a lot of stuff. I get frustrated and I'm just like, and I might say something, but I'm not like going overboard like I was before I started going to therapy. So I think it's put me in a better headspace to find solutions, so to understand those triggers, but also to find solutions to what I lacked. And it was like I'd say I was confident, but I didn't believe it. And that was part of that imposter syndrome. I think once we addressed imposter syndrome, we were just like, okay, like you do the hardest form of welding, TIG welding on stainless steel. You're a phenomenal bowler. Like you do this stuff on TikTok and you help people. Embrace that you're good at this stuff. Don't be arrogant about it. And like you don't have to be cocky or arrogant, but embrace that you've put enough work to be good at this stuff. And she was right. So that's helped quite a bit.
And again, I think that spoke volumes to me. Again, when we were talking again before we did the anniversary show for DGAB, I've been a lot better off with like receiving compliments. Like it was one of those things where it's like you're not used to receiving compliments, so you don't really know how to react to them because you don't
Hmm.
hear them that often. But I think it was so good about it. Like you rubbed off on me, and then I noticed that there was a spot here at work where I gave Curtis a compliment. I said, "Hey man, you're doing a great job as ops manager," and he almost was like, "You know what? Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that." And I was like, "Yep, see,
Yeah.
I love synergy, man. So what you did, man, thank you for that. That helped me really put some pieces of the puzzle together in my own head. And again, everybody out there, Victor telling the story, if you, it doesn't hurt to ask for help. So if you're ever in a tough spot, and I think it's more courageous that you acknowledge there's a problem and you accept that there's a problem, and it's okay to say, I can't figure this out. I need help. So
Hmm.
just awesome stuff, Victor. Like, thank you for sharing that with us, my friend. I
No, for
really
sure.
do. All right. Well, we're here at the part of the program where Brian, my good buddy Brian, has been keeping up with your questions. We're going to rock and roll here with those. So, Brian, I don't know how many questions we got, my friend, but if you could put those up on the screen here. Let's see here. Okay. Uh, Victor, Britt was asking you what was the best split pickup you've ever converted.
The so and there's a bunch of them too. I'm sure that there was like a 2A10 or something in there, but my the best split I've ever picked up was there was a 710 that I picked up in a tournament, and I was in crap, that was like a Western Chicago suburb. But I was throwing my pitch black at the 10 pin. I threw it and I looked at it, like the lack of rotation and everything, and I looked at it going down. I'm like, that's gonna pick it up. And uh, sure enough, the 10 pin bounced out of the pit and picked up the 7 pin because the first 710 that I picked up, I never watched. This one, I was just like, I threw it and I'm just like, that's going to get it. And so I watched the whole thing bounce. It was phenomenal. It was probably, it's my favorite split that I've ever picked up. And people don't believe me. They're
710?
like, "There's no way." Yeah, 710. There's like, "There's no way you knew that was picking." I'm like, "No, 100%." Like after seeing Brian Voss and so many guys do it, I understood kind of what you needed. And so when it came off my hand, I'm like, "That's at the perfect angle. It's going to give it a chance to bounce up," and it happened.
Man, yeah. Joel, welcome in, my friend. We're at the Q and A
Joel, what up,
part of
my
it.
guy?
Yeah. What, or as everybody says in his lives, what up, G?
What up, G?
All right. Brian's next question he was keeping for us. It says, best advice to adjusting in sweepers tournament. This is actually from Brian himself.
Okay, cool. The advice that I would give for adjusting is don't be scared to do it. Like we get so caught up in having like really good ball reaction at one point in time, and then you get scared when you have the ball change. Like the way I put it is that you know what you got with what you have, right? Like, and you know it's if you keep throwing that, you know what you're going to get, what you already got. Like, don't be afraid to make that change. So if I notice that my ball's starting to flat 10, I'm going to make the educated guess. Let's just say it's a lot easier to ball down and see a ball not hook than it is to go ball up. And this is actually a Stu Williams thing that he says on his Beef and Barnsley podcast. It's a lot easier to ball down and understand that your ball doesn't hook and you need something stronger than it is to ball up and not know if it's also not strong enough or if it's burning up because you get confused going up versus going down. If you go down, it's cemented, it never hooks. All right, that's it. I need to go this way.
All right. Brian, what else? What else we got on here, my friend? Like I said, we got more questions trickling in. So as we go, Brody Green asks, "Who is your Nationals partner in 2026?"
If you can tell by my reaction. No, I am super excited, super excited to be bowling. This is a guy that I've gotten really close with over the years. We got to know each other because we were in national teams in the past and are both really young at that time. And I think he's grown to be phenomenal. He joked on my live stream the other day that he's only good at sweepers. I'm like, that's not true. But we got an opportunity to bowl together at nationals again next year. So yeah, Brody Green, he's one of my best friends. He's awesome, and I'm going to be so excited to see him tomorrow. He's actually going to be at the tournament that I'm
Okay. Let's see here, Brian. What's next on the agenda, my friend? What's the next question? The next item up for bids on The Price is Right. Let's see. From me, favorite top three John Cusack movies.
at. I think I've only seen three. And High Fidelity is memorable it's memorable because Jack Black's also in it too. And it's about music and it's about having creating playlists and whatnot. Like it's got so many good quotes in it. 2012 I think is the other John Cusack movie that I've seen, and I don't know. I've seen him in a lot of other like random stuff. He's a Chicago guy, So I mean, like he's embraced, but he's not like Vince Vaughn for me, where I know like Vince Vaughn quotes from everything, like The Lost World. But yeah, so I got two for you. That's about it.
That's about it. Okay. Let's see here. All right, Brian, throw the next question at Mr. Cortez here. While we're waiting on that, you know what your name reminds me of? Like you just your entire name. It reminds me of Cortez from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The guy on the
Oh,
big
okay.
boat, his name was Cortez.
Man,
Yeah.
I can't even remember that. I played a little Vice City.
If you ever get a
Uh,
chance to go back, like it's early in the game. So yeah, Michelle's asking number one bowler you looked up to.
man, this one's tough because I had a lot of bowling idols growing up. But I think this one I'm going to say because I actually got to meet him and understand how good of a guy he actually is, and he gets a bad rap. But you know, it's actually like Sean Rash, believe it or not. Rash is one of those you see him on TV and you're like, ah, that guy's a jerk. Which another guy that I'll mention, Pete Weber, is the same way. But both of them, when you actually meet them in person, you realize that they're that way because they're doing a job. You realize they're that way because that's their office, and you don't mess with them while they're in their office. You don't come in knocking and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" They're like, "Don't distract me, get out of my way." But Sean is one of those. He does what is right. He was Bowling State. He was going to do brackets or whatever, and they were mentioning that the lanes weren't going to get reoiled. It was state or it was some sort of tournament that the lanes weren't going to get reoiled, and he asked for his bracket money back. And I was like, that's not fair to everyone else with my experience. I would like my bracket money back. And so I had heard that story, and then on top of that, just seeing him myself, like we had a chat when he's coming back from like his back issues, and he was starting to get warmed up again. He bowled a tournament in the New Year's Day tournament in Chicago that was in Lockport, Illinois, and I just had a chat with him. I'm just like, how's your back doing? And he's like, it's rough, but I just want to be able to pick up my kids. Out of anything else in the world that I do, I just want to be able to pick up my kids. And so I think he's got a really good heart. He's just a little bit misunderstood.
That's a good one. I like that. Definitely because of his stance with urethane and such, but we'll get into that. Mark Diller wants to ask you: can he back you in a tournament?
As long as you ask me beforehand, absolutely. I like Mark. I think that'll be great. But if you throw me in brackets and you don't tell me beforehand, and all of a sudden I see my name on the sheet, I'm going to ask the guy running the brackets to run him again. Take my name out of it. Give that guy his money back. It's he knew what it was getting into that. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. It's like you don't, it's not my place to take somebody else's prize money or bracket money because I didn't choose to do it myself.
Joe was pretending to press the all button.
Yeah, I mean, hit the but you got to talk to me about it, my guy. And that's the other thing.
Brian,
If you, oh, real quick, if you know me
go
well
ahead.
enough, I'll probably say yes. You know, but if you can't ask me, then you probably don't know me well enough.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much. Funny story if I could throw in, because I completely agree with you. So I had a lot of people give me a lot of grief about not bowling our Wednesday night competitive league this season because I come to find out that there were people putting me in brackets that I didn't know about.
Mm-mm.
And it really didn't set well with me. And it just kind of made it kind of was the line in the sand. And I'll never forget the first night of league when it started. I can't tell you how much I was smiling from ear to ear, being able to leave as they were coming into bowl. And it's like they were just giving me the side eye about it. And it was like, listen, I'm sorry that you're so stressed out that you haven't even started bowling this league, that I'm making a choice for my own mental health. Because a lot of people that know me close know that I bowled 800 last season in that league. I didn't know I did till the end till they told me, and I still
Mm-hmm.
left out of here in a bad mood. And I got home that night, and my mom was like, "Hey, how did you bowl?" And I said, "Well, I shot my, I guess this is like 14 or 15, like 15 or 16, 800." And she goes, "Well, that's really good, right?" I said, "Yeah, that's really good." And then what really struck with me is she looked and she goes, "Michael, you're red as a beet." And I was like, yeah, my blood pressure's up.
Hmm.
And it was that point that I was like, I am not doing this anymore. Like, we don't need to let this stuff like lead us to, lead us being so stressed out that we have a heart attack or we have a stroke. And it's like, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm not letting it. And it's so liberating in the fact that you're able to look at people, like you tell people, like, take me out. Like, we're not doing this. It's so
Right.
liberating for me to look at that and go, no, I'm not doing this. Like, enough's enough.
And it's funny
So
because I think
that
people are
was
shy
like,
to say something because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, right? They want to be, yeah, or they don't think they have a place to stand on because it's somebody else's money. But at the same time, like you're banking on me to be your horse, so you don't make money unless I do something. And on top of that, you're gonna take money away from people that shouldn't have their money taken away from because all of a sudden I'm in the brackets. Like I said, if you're not cool enough with me to talk to me saying, "Hey, I got you," I'm calling you out every single time. And I've done that in the past. They'll be like Victor Cortez, high game, and they'll look at me and be like, or I remember my buddy Ryan Lakota at the time. They're like, "Did you get in?" I'm like, "No," and I turned around and said, "I'm not in." So I let everybody in that building know, you ain't paying me. You ain't paying whoever shadowed me. You know you have a problem on your hands. You shouldn't have taken that money from whoever said that they sponsored me because they didn't clear it with me first. So now you have a problem. You have something to solve on your own. You're welcome.
I love it. Oh, I freaking love it. That's the best stuff in the world right there.
I'm petty.
Um, no, and sometimes you have to be that way to prove your point. You have to
Yeah,
be that way to prove your point.
people
All
will
right,
keep taking
Michelle's
advantage of you.
question. Absolutely. Michelle's question is one word of advice that someone that bowls, what would it be?
One word of advice for someone who bowls.
Yeah, it says
Um,
that for someone that bowls, what would it be?
one of the biggest pieces I think is just kind of embrace who you are. I think we all kind of want to be the Jason Belmonte. We all want to be the Pete Weber. We want to be the guys with the big rev rates, EJ Tackett. And not all of us throw it. Like, I don't know anybody that throws it like EJ. I don't know anybody that throws it like Belmo. They get close, but you have a unique skill set given to you. And all you have to do is embrace and figure out what your skill set is. Because a lot of what bowling is that you find your successes when you figure out what makes you unique. And when your uniqueness is what works, that's when you're going to crush them. Like tomorrow, we're going to be bowling on the short. I know a lot of guys that don't like the fact that they're like, we're bowling on two patterns, but one of the patterns is going to be short. For the Ironman, we bowl on short. Everyone in that building knows I'm going to load up in brackets on the short because I know what my strength is. I know what I can do with the urethane ball. I know what I can do playing that far to the right. I'm not scared of the gutter. So when you figure out what your uniqueness is and when you what makes you you bowling wise, you're going to be a lot better.
No, I am taking notes, Mr. Cortez. All right,
Yeah, I
Brian.
appreciate that.
Yeah, Brian. What's the next question? Well, if you're gonna, I will say this: if you're gonna sponsor somebody, I got to throw this at it. Not your mailman. If you're gonna sponsor Victor, you heard it from him first. Make sure you get with him. That's all
He'll
I got to
ask me.
say.
He'll ask me. He
All right,
knows. He's all good. He's in my chat.
Mark. Another question from Mark. It says, "What do you think about doing tournament scratch or scratch tournaments, but with average divisions?"
I think it's a great idea. So you know what we do now? We'll have handicap with a scratch side pod. Why can't we do it the other way around? Encourage, give an incentive for somebody that's about to cut out their teeth, or they cut their teeth, learning how to bowl on sport shots and sweepers. I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think we need to come up with more ways to encourage people to bowl as opposed to, because a person will find any reason not to bowl. You give them one thing, whatever thing it'll be, and they won't show up. We need to find ways to encourage people to come out.
Well, with that being said, I'm going to personally issue a encouraging challenge to Mr. Dustin Caps to come bowl my scratch sweeper tomorrow, buddy.
There you go. See?
He'll give me crap about that. All right, what do we got here? Oh, Meg is asking thoughts on the new storm level.
I think the storm level is going to be fantastic. Mine is on the way, and I'll be drilling it with a 4-inch pin like my urethanes. And so I've been seeing a lot of other people throw it. Jasmine sent me a video of her throwing it in practice, and the nice thing about the level is that it is reactive. But what I've been seeing from the level is that it's got that defined grab the lane like a urethane ball does. Like reactive will skate, but the level, like when it encounters friction, it'll grab it and show you that it's going to the lane, but it'll also continue. Like it won't, it doesn't have a bailout in there. You know it's going to move. You can trust that it's going to move. So I'm excited to get mine. It'll be coming soon, hopefully within the next week. And the nice part about the level is that one of our guys locally shined his up. He polished his. He put Power Edge on it after Matt McNeil did the same thing, and Matt McNeil crushed it with polish. Brian Shannon, he ended up throwing it with polish and loved it. So I don't think people understand the versatility of the cover enough. But yeah, it's. I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it firsthand with Jasmine tomorrow. She's gonna be throwing it, especially on the short, and I anticipate her getting some really good score out of it because it's controllable, but it's got that strength to glue to the lane. And I'm excited to get mine. I think it'll be coming in the next week.
I've definitely noticed that a lot of some of the releases, and I'm talking like across the board from all the brands, they're getting to these high performance cores with the lower differential numbers. I've definitely noticed a trend in that.
Yeah, and a
So
lot of it has to do with like, controlling where your ball comes offline. I think the nice part about lower diff balls is that they stay online longer. Higher diffs increase flare potential, and what flare does is it gets it to start moving sooner. So I think we're coming up with some really good combinations lately.
So while I'm waiting on Brian to tag the next question, I'm going to throw this. Bill Jones wants to know: are you going to be live tomorrow, and what time, if you are?
Yeah, we'll be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna keep looking for my like newer set of microphones. But I do have my backup set, and so far so good. So maybe it'll be okay. But you'll have me mic'd up, and then possibly Jasmine if she wants to. But we'll have to figure out a way to make the other mic work because the other mic has the clip broken off of it, which is why I ended up buying a new set of mics. So you'll at least get me, or maybe my chat tells me no, we rather listen to Jasmine. But I'll be live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Okay. Next question from Brian. He says, "Do you have any thoughts on the new Storm Equinox? He just ordered his free ball from Storm."
That one is coming for me too. So I ordered a level and the Equinox at the same time, and you guys will be getting videos on both, especially here on TikTok. I'll be doing a full game with each of them. The way that I think I'm going to do it is on this platform, since this is where I got my most followers and most people watching me and subscribe to me. You guys are going to get the first one. Like after I warm up with it out of the box, you'll get a full game. And then on the other platform, you'll get a full game there, but that's going to be probably more in transition. And so the Equinox is it gravitated towards my eyes. Now, granted, remember, I'm telling you, I haven't thrown it yet, but a lot of the stuff that I look at is ball motion, what I'm seeing with my eyes, and I've gotten pretty decent at that over the years. So this one, the Equinox, looks like it's kind of like for me, it's going to be my dark code replacement, where he gets down the lane and really wants to, you know, get off the end of the pattern, but it's going to do it in a smoother fashion. It's not going to be so herky jerky. It's going to be more gradual. And yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
for it. We'll get a video on that for sure.
You want a quick chuckle here? Pro Shop customer brings me an Excel, and I kid you not, the question asked was, "Can you drill this to go long without polishing it?" And I almost couldn't hold back my chuckle.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like I say, we're here to help people learn a little bit more about what happens when you have surface fighting layouts and all the other stuff. So I mean, we're just here to educate sometimes, and sometimes that's all they need.
It's like I tell people all the time, Victor. I'm like, we don't have a reason to lie to you.
Right.
That benefit does not benefit us to sell you a sham. It does.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. I'm down.
Um, Mark Mark's question again is: how many times have you been told you look like Chris Prather? Okay, you made his head go down, y'all.
I've had people, and I'll be in a tournament, and they'll just like look at me and walk by me, and then later tell me, "Oh, I thought you were Chris." I'm like, "No." And don't get me wrong, I've told Chris before. I'm like, "Look, you're a good looking dude. Like, I'll take it as a compliment, but every now and then, like, you can get, you know." I told him, like, even when we were at one of my friends TJ's wedding, he came out, and one of my friends called him Vic. And so at the PTQ a long time ago, I told him, I'm like, people keep mistaking me for you. And he told me that he walked into, a Mexican restaurant and people started speaking to him in Spanish. I'm like, great, they're mistaking you for me too. That's awesome. That's good to hear. But yeah, and I told him after that, after we went to TJ's wedding and I saw him the next week, I'm just like, I'm sorry if anybody calls you Victor. And he's like, no, it was a great time. It's okay. So it's a running joke between us two, but yeah, it happens quite a bit, a lot in
Fun
my
fact is,
comments.
hmm?
In
Fun
my comments.
fact, a long time ago when I bowled SSJBA, I actually bowled in match play against Prather. I have that
No,
under my
really?
belt. I could say that. Yeah, yeah. When we were bowling it was a big youth tournament. And they did like a bunch of stops everywhere. And this is when he was in the minor division and I was in the masters division. It's like, well, he really went way above all of us at once. So, because
Yeah.
he's out there rocking it out there on tour. So,
Oh, absolutely.
uh, while, while I'm waiting on Brian to throw the next question out, I'm kind of going through a bit of these two. So the next one, does two finger have lower or higher side potential?
So anytime you take your thumb out of the ball, you increase your potential, and it is because now obviously two-handed has a higher potential than two finger one hand, and that's because you have the control and stability to be able to work with your core. The thing is that when you get to the bottom of your swing and you're holding a ball, like if you got your thumb in it, you can only go so far before you kind of lock yourself up. Like if you hold your hand out and you put your thumb in front of you like that, like it would be in a bowling ball, you're blocking yourself from curling it and coming more, underneath the ball. Without a thumb out of the way, it can get underneath all I want. So now, like I said, you take your thumb out of it and you get out of your own way. This is where you're at with the bowling ball. The more under the equator you are, the easier it is to get your ball through the front part of the lane. Because when your thumb goes like this, you get your ball to dig into the front part of the lane and just puke out. I would know. That's literally like what I had to fight my entire life. So once we got our hand under the equator, now I got all this energy retained to for the back part of the lane. And if you're two-handed and without a thumb, it's actually easier for you to get behind the ball than it is for a one-hander because once again, our thumb wants us to do that. Without the thumb, you're inside the ball the whole time.
Great answer, my friend. Great answer. Waiting on Brian to throw in the next one. I'll throw one that I see right now. Coda Bowen asks, "What's your advice for someone that wants to get sponsored by a ball company?" I could throw in
I
some stuff on that.
For sure. I think the big thing is being personable, right? Like you have to be approachable. So like anytime, and that's where a lot of people, because once there was some interest heard about possibly making this happen with Storm, of course they would check out my TikTok. Is he really personal? Is he really like is he good with people? That kind of thing. They want to know if you're good to the community, and that doesn't mean like going above and beyond and doing the videos that I do. It means if somebody walks up to you, how do you treat them? And so that first and foremost. Second thing is, they're in a business to sell bowling balls. So how can you provide information? How can you get people into a storm ball? That kind of thing. Like how are you able to do that? Some of it is, from phenomenal scores. Don't get me wrong. Like if you're great at it, you're great at it. But if you're great with a crappy attitude, they're not gonna do anything with you. So you got to treat people well. You got to treat people well. Get out, show that you bowl tournaments, show that you bowl, league, and you're tied into my community, and that'll go a long way.
I concur with that. I tell people all the time that the only reason I'm on staff is because I work in a pro shop, which again, pro shop is very interconnected. It's like a highway connection. So
For
definitely.
sure.
Another one Brian posted from Coda Bowling as well. It says, for people that are new to competitive leagues, when you are in a rough patch, how do you, I think they're asking, how do you work
And
on
get out
getting
of
out
it,
of it?
maybe. Yeah. See, the thing is, like for me, especially when I have a rough patch, sometimes like last summer, I ended up getting like I was having back issues and all the other stuff. Um, Sometimes you just got to give yourself a break and decompress. Sometimes you're forcing it too much. Like you want to get out of this rough patch so badly. You're just like, well, if I try this, if I try that, if I do something new, sometimes you just need to let go and decompress and just kind of like, ease up off the situation. If you're not at that point yet, because that was a really bad burnout that I had over the summer. And I took 2 weeks off, let my back heal, like put myself in a better perspective. And then after that, things got really good again. Um, when you're talking about like week to week and you have a bad set, that stuff's, for me, it's just like it's in the past. You move on. You can improve the next one. You can't do anything about what just happened, but you can improve the next one. Forget
That's
the
what
bad
kind
ones.
of
I even forget the good ones. And I was like, I don't know, like if the Iron Man, like people had to remind me what I did when I won. I'm just like, yeah, I was just in the moment. But like, it's just you free. Like I think of it as this too shall pass. Whether you're on the up or on the down, it's going to be temporary because we all do this all the time. It's just, can you control it to be like sustainable that way and maybe a gradual increase? This is funny. This is actually what we just talked about in my last therapy session. If you shoot for this, you can imagine how quickly it is, how easy it is to go to that. But
yeah.
we're just trying to maintain, maybe get our small victories here and there and improve. And if you have a little setback, you're going to have that divot. You forget about that one and you move on
It's like I always say, Victor, 1% better every day. That's highly obtainable.
for sure.
Here we go, because Mark's agreeing with this question from Michael Spence. It says, any advice for a senior bowler?
For a senior bowler, I think it falls back to understanding what your strengths are. And if you're a senior bowler that had to drop in weight, understand that you have most majority of the time you have a different ball reaction than most other people because 14 pounders tend to be a little cleaner. And since they drop, if you drop in weight, you start deflecting in the pocket a little bit more, but you only really see that if the ball doesn't get into a hook phase. So it might happen on longer patterns more than any other type of pattern. For senior bowlers, like I know you want to find that fountain of youth and whatnot, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to work with what you got and work with what your strengths are. If you're starting to play the lane straighter, figure out how you can manipulate those spots on the lane. One of the best bowlers I've ever seen that didn't have a huge rev rate is Liz Johnson. And I got to see her in person. She got to beat us at one of our local tournaments when she was in Chicago, and she was throwing a pitch black. She doesn't have a big rev rate, but she understood how to control her hook to get into a roll and get to you through the pins. Um, but understand what you're working with. Understand that, it's going to be, maybe you can get the rev rate back to an extent, but it's better for you to embrace where you're at now. And, there's pluses to being able to be more direct. They say straighter is greater, but if you're really good at being straight like Liz is, yeah, you might be in pretty good shape.
I see this one right here that Brian got tagged in. Don Connor wants to know who drills your stuff.
So I go to the pro shop called the Bowling Store in Omaha. It is run by Matt Tomsu. Um, Kind of like a fortunate situation kind of thing because when I moved to Omaha, I told the guy that out of the same bowling center, out of the bowling center that it was out of in Chicago, and I said, you're still going to take my lineage. And I was like, are you going to bowl at Mockingbird? Because Mockingbird is also owned by the proprietor that I belong to back home. And so I went into the pro shop. Tom Shoes is one of the, like we have some really premier pro shops in Omaha. And it's funny how they're all so successful because we have Bowler's Choice, which is run by Richard Bood, I believe, or not necessarily who actually runs that. But then we also have Tom Kelly's Pro Shop, which is huge in the area. And Kelly's a really good like player from back in the day. But we all get along well and we kind of like all, push each other to be like really good to the community. But the one that I belong to is the bowling store in Mockingbird Lanes in Omaha.
Okay. Brian, if you got any more to put on there, let us know there, brother. But I will go ahead and ask this since it's right up here, right in my face. Chris Roberts wants to know, what do you think the most underrated ball of all time is?
Oof. It's one that I struck a lot with, and people are probably not like may not have heard the name. It was a motive ball called the Chronic Paranoia.
Mm,
The Chronic Paranoia was the one that EJ Tackett won his first major championship with. And it was smooth. It was smooth. It just rolled the entire time. But for me, that controlled the pocket. and I carried for days with it because it allowed me to just rip on it for all that it was worth. And I think it was very underrated. I think a lot of people should have gravitated towards that more.
Well, Brian says that's all he's got, but he does want to say thank you for sharing mental awareness.
For sure. Like I said, that's one of those that I just recently really learned when I was in a bad spot. I won't sugarcoat that one. I know it's you see me, on the live stream being really good to people, but like mentally, like if I found a trigger, I was really quick to just spike and think that clouds are falling out of the sky kind of thing. So I think it's really important to really like just take care of yourself, and you're not gonna have all the answers, even if you think you're under control. You know, just get checked up every once in a while. Talk to somebody.
All right, I stand corrected. There's two more questions here we want to get to. Chris Roberts wants to ask, have you ever attended the Kegel Center to help with your bowling?
I have not. I would want to do that at some point because I hear that place is phenomenal, but I've never been there, so I don't have any experience with it. But it is an excuse to go to Florida, I think, right? I think it's in Florida. And I've never been, so
Yes.
maybe I can go to the Kegel Center and go to Disney.
And Miss Maya asks, do you think that the lights on the lanes affect projection?
I think. Do you think that the lights on the lane affect projection? I think you can use the lights to your advantage. I think you can use the lights as even so here's what I'm gonna say. So a lot of the time people don't know how I target, right? Um, and so people will just be like, "Oh, what board are you standing? Oh, I'm on 22. All right. Where are you at the arrows? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I don't know where I'm at the arrows. Well, what are you looking at? I'm looking at the reflection of the light in the gutter, like in the middle of the gutter, not to the left, not to the right, but it's like kind of like in the middle of the gutter, and I'm pointing my ball that way. Or I'll be on a different pattern. It's like, what are you looking at? The middle of the six pin. Okay, what board is that? I have no idea, but I'm looking at the middle of the six pin. So you can use this stuff to target and use it as an advantage. What the lights do, as far as like what it does to the lane conditions, I don't know, but you can use it to help your targeting system. You don't have to look at a dot or a board or an arrow. I don't. I look at pins. I look at spots in the gutter because that's going to tell me to open up. If I'm looking this way into the gutter, it's going to tell my hips to open up and get the ball there. Once I start walking, my brain's already registered that that's what I was looking at, so that's what I'm going to hit. It's like when people move up and back on the approach, people are like, oh, it's going to cut your distance down to get the ball down, like late earlier. No, no, no. It slows you down because psychologically, your brain is going to tell you to get to the same point at the line with your foot. So it's either so if you move back, you're going to take longer steps and it's going to be faster. If you move up, you're going to take shorter steps. You're going to walk slower, but your foot's going to end up in the same spot because subconsciously your body wants to get to the same spot.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle is asking, are there any younger bowlers that you have that you are watching, like on the up and coming?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I don't know anybody like youth wise yet, because it's hard for me to like. I mean, I bowl a lot of tournaments, so I don't get to see a lot of the high school kids that are bowling in the area. I'd love to peek in and just be like, hey, I'm Victor, that kind of stuff. In college, I know one name that I'm like really fascinated by, and he's a good dude. I get to bowl against him in a tournament, and he's been really good. Is Kevin Magnuson? I believe he bowls for St. Ambrose. He's the two-handed lefty, and his demeanor and how he attacks the lane and how much he wants to learn, but he's also very personable. I think he's got a lot of good stuff coming for him. So if you hear the name Kevin Magnuson down the road, just know that I was giving him credit before anybody else was. I actually know a lot of people are giving him credit. He's a Cali kid, and people out there saw him on my live stream. They're like, "Oh my God, that's Kevin Magnuson!" Like, yeah, he's pretty good. Just watch out; he's going to get even better.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, Victor, we are on the wind down here, and first and foremost, again, everybody that's come on here that has shared your questions with Victor, that has went through this entire episode. I just cannot say thank you enough. I really do appreciate it. towards the end here, Victor, tell everybody, do your social media plugs. Let everybody know where they can find you, and from top to bottom, where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. Before I start plugging stuff, I noticed that Kyle was in the chat, and I got to give him credit too out of Hastings. He's also a really, really good bowler that has made it look really, really easy, where I've made him look really, really difficult. So I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps plugging away. He's going to be the same way. Um, the social media platforms that I'm on here. I'm on a little bit on Instagram. I'm a little bit on the YouTubes. So hopefully, like they hear the platforms and we can kind of get to stay on. And I'm as Iceman X1791 on all those platforms. The the main goal is to be like doing everything that I'm doing right now, the same on TikTok, and we get ourselves into some like new cameras and stuff to do more vlogging style on YouTube. So yes, at some point you're gonna hear uh, me on the live stream talking to my camera, as if I was talking to something else, but I have to do it for show. So we'll do it. We have that for social media platforms. It's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the same name.
All the same name, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. And late question here from Hunter Pender. He says, "What are your thoughts on Cam Crow?"
Cam is phenomenal. I don't think he gave. I think he kind of went through the same thing that I just recently went through, where he may not have believed in himself because I feel like he could have gotten on tour a lot sooner. And so I think once he started really gearing into like, hey, this is me. Like I'm coming. I think I saw that when we were bowling the 11th frame this year in where were we at in Dubuque? I was leading. I was shooting big numbers, and I'm bowling right next to Cam, and Cam's just he makes a ball change and he goes 280 and puts up numbers, and he caught me and he took the lead. And I'm like, dude, like I don't know how you did that. Like he just started to pipe it hard and play to his strengths. He played to his strengths, and he came out on top. He ended up winning that tournament. So I think nothing but I think he's got a lot of good stuff coming. I think he's rounding himself out to be able to be more versatile. But I think that when he's got it, he's going to be one of those like watch out. He's going to have that Jacob Butters effect from years ago where he could just strike it well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys and gals, we're down to what the NFL Red Zone calls the winching hour here. Once again, just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. And Victor, these conversations are so awesome. I'm looking forward to you coming back into the lives and sharing more of the stuff that you always share. Again, uh, my biggest thing to you is like I said, you describe everything so articulate and just so proper, and it just great storytelling, great storytelling. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And I'm really glad that we crossed paths on here because you are absolutely a wealth of knowledge. And I know a lot of people look up to you and a lot of people follow you. And again, man, from that perspective, dude, like, just awesome. And like, I really appreciate you coming here onto the show.
For
Um,
sure.
for everybody out there, if you gave me a follow during this and I didn't acknowledge it, my apologies. I just want to say thank you for that. I am, like I said, my biggest platform is like Victor's here on TikTok. This is where I post the most. Um, I am also on Facebook. You can like and follow us on there. Also on Instagram. I'm not on IG as much. That's probably the weakest link, but also the YouTube channel. Big shout out to you all for helping me get to 500 subscribers on there. Big deal to me. Just chunking it, just piping away at it. We are so close to 3,000 followers on here. I cannot say thank you enough for that. Um, Victor's a great guy and a person I look up to as a bowler, according to Alec Taylor. Alec,
I appreciate that.
completely concur and completely agree 1,000%. Bald Bros Bowling, thanks for the follow. Everybody else that came in here, thanks for the follow. So you can check it out. Damn Good Average Bowler. And this has been episode 18 of Calling All Bowlers. Victor, as always, man, I cannot say thank you enough. And I hope, who is your partner again? We went through so much.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll be
Who
bowling
you
with
bowling with
Jasmine.
tomorrow again?
I'm bowling with Jasmine Snell. She's
Jasmine?
an
Okay.
alum from Nebraska. She throws it phenomenal. She's also on the PWBA tour, and she made a step ladder, I think, a year ago or 2 years ago. for the PWBA. So yeah, she's great. Like just we vibe so well. We speak the same language when we're on the lanes. So I think we're gonna. I hope we do well tomorrow, but I anticipate we're gonna do well tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a good one.
I got no doubt. Looking forward to your live stream. What time did you say that was again, Victor?
We start at 10 a.m. tomorrow, so 10 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be bowling 8 games. And no step ladders, just 8 game totals, and then we'll keep you like on the live stream. We'll keep you up to date with scores, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be posted to Greater Iowa Bowling Association's Facebook page. So be on the. They usually have a drive that you can click on, and it'll give you all the score sheets that they have.
Another thing too, I want to let everybody know I've had some really good feedback about my upcoming tournament in May. Again, Victor, if that's a weekend you're open, dude, I would love to have you down here for it.
Oh, for sure.
But Derek Tate Memorial Tournament is happening on May 18th, which is a Sunday. Friday, May 16th, and Saturday, May 17th, we're going to have 3 sweepers where the winners will get free entries into the Sunday tournament. You guys will see a bunch of stuff from that. So, again, like I said, guys and gals, thank you so much for joining us for Calling All Bowlers, episode 18 with Mr. Victor Cortez. Victor, you and Jasmine, bowl your tails off tomorrow, man. I hope to hear you make a video about how you overcame the odds and you went in there and you won it all, my friend.
Absolutely. I got a point to prove. I gotta make sure that we see this and I plug along with everything that I've been learning in therapy. I want to put it to an existence and make sure that people know that I'm really picking up on it. So I appreciate that.
All right, Victor. Y'all give them hell tomorrow. Y'all, it's been Calling All Bowlers, episode 18. Again, like I said, Victor, wealth of knowledge. Appreciate you so much, man. And we'll get together again real soon, okay?
Absolutely. You're a good friend to me, Mike. I think it'll be happening quite a bit.
All right, my friend. Bill, thank you for the follow. Everybody else, Brian, thank you for helping me with the questions to get to Victor. Calling All Bowlers, episode 18. Love you guys. Appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday evening. We'll talk soon, okay?